Welcome back. My name is Deja. I'm a traditional astrologer, and in today's video, we're going to be chatting about the craziness that's going to unfold in 2025. A part of the craziness is me revamping Deja the Jovian, revamping my astrology business, and this is part one of that. In 2025, there are major societal shifts that are going to take place. They're just peaks. They're not permanent. They're not here to stay, but we're getting the peek into what society will be like post 2025. On top of that, Saturn dips into Aries. The nodes move into Pisces and Virgo. So the eclipses are going to move into Pisces and Virgo. We have a Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde is going to end. Jupiter goes into Cancer. There are so many things next year that are worth looking forward to. So many things that are a bit questionable, a bit scary. I'm not gonna lie, Saturn and Aries. There's just a lot happening next year. And I want us all to be prepared to be ready for the chaos that's going to unfold. If you've been here since the beginning, since 2020, you know that this YouTube channel, my astrology business, has gone through so much. I quit, I got back into it, and I quit, and then I got back into it. But this year, 2025, a part of this chaos is me finally, formally committing to my astrology business and not giving up on it. That's just like a personal thing that I have that I'm working on and also a part of my Saturn in my first house, Saturn and Aries, ruling my midheaven story is just like, no. This is what I'm doing. No more shame, no more fear. I'm gonna be scared, I'm gonna have shame, Saturn in my first, but we're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna work through it. We're gonna push past the shame. We're gonna push past the self-doubt. We're gonna find self-confidence, and we're gonna show up, get big, and take up space in 2025. And there's a lot next year that kind of will present us with the opportunity to do so. Zillennials are being called to the front. If you were born in the late 90s, 2025 is the year where we are getting a peek into our Saturn return. The nodes are going to move into Pisces and Virgo. We're gonna have our nodal reversal. That, on top of all the other things that are going to be happening, the societal transformations that we're going to be getting, the Venus retrograde that we're going to be getting, the Mars retrograde ending, Jupiter in fucking Cancer. There's so many things that are going to be helpful, that are going to be a little scary, a little overwhelming, but in this video, we're going to unpack it all so that you all feel capable and ready and confident to tackle Saturn and Aries. Because that is going to be a transit to tackle. I'm just giving you all a heads up right now. That's going to be funky. Let's dive into things. So the major things that are happening this year are the nodes moving into Pisces and Virgo. We're going to get eclipses in Pisces and Virgo, and that shift happens in early January. The second thing that happens this year is all the outers are changing signs. Pluto has already been in Aquarius after being in Capricorn for way too long. Neptune is going to move into Aries along with Saturn, which is going to be terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. And Uranus is going to finally leave Taurus and ingress into Gemini. All of these planets retrograde back into the sign that they were in previously at the end of 2025. The only one that stays is Pluto in Aquarius. We're getting a taste of Neptune and Aries. We're getting a taste of Uranus and Gemini, but come 2026, they're going to formally be in there, and then they're never gonna leave ever again. Well, they're gonna leave, but they're not gonna leave for 10, 15 plus years. And to be completely honest with you guys, I do not work with the outer planets that much in my personal practice. I think that they are much better for marking societal, cultural shifts, and we'll chat about that. But it is very important to note, because whether or not you feel it on a personal level, you may witness it on a collective level, if that makes any sense. Mars retrograde comes to an end, and Venus retrograde begins. Mars station retrograde at the beginning of December in Leo, and then Mars is going to station direct and end its retrograde cycle in Cancer. Mars stations direct at the end of February, and then right after that, like a few days after, Venus stations retrograde in Aries. So there's a lot there, but that. And then in March and April are just 2 months of chaos. It's just so chaotic. There's so much shit that's happening. We're gonna unpack that. Saturn ingresses into Aries, as I said. Saturn also conjoins Neptune, which is going to be funky and crazy and weird. And Jupiter ingresses into Cancer. And there's some other smaller transits that happen this year, like Venus will go through Libra. That's gonna be really sweet and really nice, but that's not until October and November. There's some really awful things happening in August when Mars is in Libra and opposes Saturn and Aries. But those are smaller focus. So we'll chat about that once the time comes. But I just want to give you a heads up now so that you know, be wary of early August when Mars goes into Libra, but also be excited for October and November when Venus is in Libra. Okay, so we've got all that. We've got the basics down pack. We've got all the things that we're going to talk about. Let's dive into things. So in the middle of January, the nodes are going to leave Aries and Libra and ingress into Pisces and Virgo. And the nodes are also called Rahu and Ketu. They're also called the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon. They let us know, astronomically, they let us know where the eclipses are going to take place for the year. Astrologically, the nodes let us know a bunch of different things. In Western astrology, they tend to say that Rahu, the head of the dragon, the north node, is all about increase, bringing things into your life, newness, manifestation, all that stuff. In Ketu, which is on the other end of the spectrum, they're always opposite. They're always in each other's sister signs, as social media likes to say. Ketu is all about releasing, letting go, and decrease. However, in the Vedic and Indian tradition, Rahu is the head of the dragon, and Ketu is the tail of the dragon. In their myth of the nodes and of the creation of the world, there was this massive dragon. The gods had to chop it in half. And so with that, it was just the head just floating around with no body, and then the tail with also no body floating around of a dragon. And so there's like this insatiable energy of just like, ah. That's the best way I can describe it, to be completely honest with you. And so if you think about the head of the dragon, it's like soaring through the skies. It's seeing everything. It's taking everything, kicking ass and taking names and doing all the crazy shit. But imagine a head of a dragon, a crazy mythical beast. Imagine that, but without no body, no stomach, no physical component of its body is telling it when enough is enough. Rahu has a problem with knowing when enough is enough. And so there is going to be this energy of, with Rahu and Pisces, the Piscean energy of collective healing, of connection, of love, of art, of spirituality, those sorts of things. It's going to feel like there's not enough. Like there's going to be this insatiable feeling of like, I need more meaning. I need more understanding. I need more big picture. I need more healing. I need more connection. It's just going to feel like we just need more. Whereas Ketu in Virgo is going to be draining, depleting. If it's the tail of the dragon and there's no body attached to that tail, it kind of just brings shitting, you know? Like you're kind of just like shitting a bunch of shit out and you're not even really thinking about how much you're letting go, how much you're releasing. You're just doing it because there's nothing telling you to stop. There's nothing telling you that enough is enough. This is the problem with the nodes. They don't know when to end it. They don't know when to stop. And so there's going to be a draining, a releasing, a letting go and letting God. I say that very, very carefully and slowly because I don't want people to think I'm evangelical. However, I was raised evangelical. So there are some evangelical things that still are in the back of my brain. And I will say, letting go and letting God is the best way to describe Ketu because we can't control what is being drained. We have to really just release control, release our like desire to make things happen in the way that we want in the Virgo area of our life, and things are just going to be released. Things are just going to happen without us really even trying. Whereas the Pisces area of our life, there's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of initiation, a lot of consuming and wanting more. This will be most important for people who have Sag, Pisces, Virgo, Gemini rising, and also, as I said, Zillennials, because we have Rahu in Virgo and Ketu in Pisces. So this is our nodal reversal. Things get fucking weird. It's the precursor, it's the preface of our Saturn return, which will formally begin in 2026. So 27 and on is like a funky time because not only are we, preparing for our Saturn return, but we also have this nodal reversal thing that's going on in our lives. We may be Zillennials. We may be, and also people who just have Rahu in Virgo and Ketu in Pisces, because it's not just us. There's people older than us who also have this as well. I think it's like 18 years older. So if you're 18 years older than 27, I don't really know what that is. I can't do math. You do the math. This is the time where we are, reconciling with where we have been putting a lot of our energy and where we have been letting go and letting God. We're going to be putting a lot of energy and prioritization into the area where we're normally used to letting go and letting God. So check your birth chart, pull up to see what area of life Pisces is for you. That is where we're going to be trying. We're like insatiable, more. See where Virgo is. It's directly across from Pisces. So it's the opposite house. That is where you're going to be like, fuck it, we ball. I'm just going to figure it out as I go. It's just going to all work out. We're going to let go and we're going to let God. That is going to be the Virgo K2 section area of our life. The nodes are going to switch in January. As I said, this is going to be most important for people who have Sag, Virgo, Pisces, Gemini rising, and also if you have any personal placements, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter in Pisces or Virgo will definitely be very important for you. Next major thing that's happening in 2025, all the outer signs change signs. Pluto has already been in Aquarius this year in 2024. Neptune is going to move into Aries briefly, and Uranus is also going to move into Gemini. Neptune has been in Pisces for 10,000 motherfucking years, and Uranus has been in Taurus also for 10,000 motherfucking years. I'm exaggerating. That's not true. But they've been there for a very, very long time. So much time that I don't even really think about them anymore, to be completely honest with you. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I think that the outer planets matter the most when we are talking about societal and collective transformations and changes that are going to happen. And also they matter especially when any of the outers conjoin, especially Jupiter and Saturn. Like 2020, when lockdown started and the pandemic happened, we had a whole global pandemic. That shit was literally insane and terrifying. Pluto and Saturn conjoined in Capricorn. As I mentioned, I don't really work with the outers like that in my personal practice, primarily because I find that they're more useful for talking about bigger things that like have been around and have existed for hundreds of years, because humans are not capable of living and experiencing a full Pluto transit. We're not capable of living to experience a full Uranus Neptune transit. However, countries especially are absolutely around long enough to experience the full impact of an outer planet transit. And I'm talking about like a return and things of that nature. That's just me. You can use the outers in your personal practice. That's fantastic. I also think that they're really important for people who are experiencing exact conjunctions to the outer planets. Like me, for example, I have Mars at 0 Aquarius. So Pluto ingressing into Aquarius, stationing retrograde, going back, all that stuff. If you have something like that, if you have something at like 0 Gemini, 0 Aries, or 1 Aries, things of that nature, the sign change of the outer planet may be more felt for you than other people. All the outer change signs, that's going to be really interesting and really impactful to sit back and to witness and to piece together the story of what that means for all of us. But yeah, that's going to be major. And Neptune going into Aries is also going to be major, primarily because Neptune and Saturn go into Aries around the same time. So that definitely, I think, will be felt. And also, especially will be felt with people who have Saturn and Aries. Or again, as I said, anyone with planets at early Aries, like 0, 1 degree. Okay, moving on from all the outer planet stuff, all the big shit, let's talk about Mars retrograde ending and Venus retrograde beginning. So back in December, Mars stationed retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo and has been going backwards in the sign of Leo, but is going to change signs and go back into Cancer. And then at some point, February 24th, Mars is going to end that retrograde and start moving forward again and go back all over the land that it traversed back in December and through January. So we're wrapping up all the chaos of December through February, and we're doing the final demos, the final teardowns, the final breakdowns that Mars retrograde is bringing into our life. Again, pull up your birth chart, check to see what area of life Leo and Cancer is for you, but especially Cancer in 2025, because that is where Mars is going to come to a halt and turn direct. And then we're going to enter into the post-retrograde shadow. So this should be interesting, primarily because for the past few months, we have been rethinking how we assert our boundaries. We're rethinking how we're fighting for things. We're rethinking how we are dealing with conflict. And so as Mars comes to a halt, we're like, okay, what do we do with all the revisions, all the changes that we're trying to make? How do we move forward? How do we move on from this? That's what the post-retrograde shadow is going to call us to do. And then right after that, if Mars is the planet of war and fighting and conflict, Venus, the planet of love and union and attraction and friendship and just pure happiness and joy, is also going to be stationing retrograde and turning backwards and calling us also to reflect deeply and to kind of go internal and think about all of these Venusian things of aesthetics, beauty, fairness, even women's rights. We're going to start rethinking what all of that means to us. And this Venus retrograde is going to be really interesting because it starts in Aries, Venus's detriment, and then is going to end and station direct in Pisces, with Saturn. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Venus loves being in Pisces. And so it's going to be really interesting to experience like doing all of that reflection, all of that internal work in Aries when Venus does not feel like she has the power to do the unifying, to do the beautifying, to make the art. And then once she goes back into Pisces, it's going to be interesting to see like all the work that she's able to kind of get done, I guess you could say, once the retrograde is like coming to a close. So it feels like there are two parts to this Venus retrograde. Venus, when she's not doing great in general, the myth of Venus is Persephone being taken, kidnapped by Hades and sent to the underworld, and then she's in the underworld for a while and then she comes back. So there's kind of this energy of like Venus, again, the planet of love, beauty, art, aesthetics, fairness, equality, is retreating, and she's like, I gotta figure some shit out. So in our personal lives, we may find ourselves, if you're an artist, if you're a content creator, if you work in the beauty industry, if you work with women, and if you work with women's rights and stuff like that, this may be a time starting March 2nd where we're all rethinking like, crap, like we need to make some changes. We need to make some adjustments to what all of this means to us, especially considering Donald Trump's presidency. Like, it's a little scary, if I'm being honest, because Venus, as I said, is all about like women's rights and how we treat people, reproductive rights, creation, procreation, and things of that nature. And so it's going to be really interesting to Venus going through detriment. If Venus like represents women, Venus in detriment, it may be like speaking about, trying to figure out how to defend and protect women that have historically been disrespected or unheard or like not taken seriously, or even women who are fighters, women who are fighting on behalf of women's rights and equality. We may be called to reassess how we are fighting for women's rights, how women are defending themselves even, you know, like the rise of incel culture in young men it's terrifying. I watched a TikTok. This fashion TikToker was talking about upcoming trends for 2025, and they were talking about how maybe defense fashion is something that makes a comeback. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my fucking God. Is that not Venus and Aries? Aries is the sign of Mars, the sign of fighting, achieving, kicking ass, and taking names. And Venus is representative of women, is women adopting defensive fashion as like a way to protect themselves. Lots of jewelry, lots of rings in case someone tries to assault you. You can go pop, 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 pop. Lipstick that looks like lipstick, but actually there's a knife inside. I'm curious to see how much women are pushed to the extreme of this self-defense, self-preservation post January's inauguration. It's a little scary, but yeah, so that happens in March 2nd, and we'll chat about that more as we get there, but it's going to be really interesting to see what unfolds with that. But regardless, that's a great time to rethink your aesthetics, to rethink your art style if you make art, try new things, go internal, isolate from the world, and really kind of dive deep and ask yourself, like, what does aesthetics mean for me? Especially if you have Aries rising like myself. What is my fashion sense? What is my aesthetic? What is my brand? If you're a brand owner or business owner, I feel like Venus retrogrades are always great times for rebranding, period. I wouldn't launch the rebrand while Venus is retrograde, but I would plan for a rebrand while Venus is retrograde and then like launch it once Venus is direct. Next. So that leads us to March and April, 2 months of absolute chaos. First, Mercury and Venus will end their retrograde within a week of each other, and they're both ending their retrograde with Saturn. So that's going to be a bit restrictive, a bit of a damper on everything. Saturn reminds us, especially in Pisces, reminds us of the emotional weight, the emotional responsibility and obligations that like connection requires. On top of Venus and Mercury retrogrades ending with Saturn, we also get our last and final Aries eclipse on March 29. Will be the final wrap up of our Libra Aries eclipse cycle. The stories that began back in 2022 in our Aries and Libra areas of our life, they're going to be having their final chapter, the final installment to this story. We're wrapping things up and we're preparing for the eclipses in Virgo and Pisces. So again, look at the Aries house in your birth chart. That'll let you know what area of life is experiencing the last and final push to get us over and out of this Aries Libra eclipse cycle. Maybe you have Aries rising like myself, and there's a lot having to do with like your personal growth or getting out there and being more visible. Maybe you have Aries in your second house and you've been looking for ways to make more money to improve your income so you don't have to depend on other people with K2 in Libra. So yes, that's coming to an end. I'm personally happy about it because I'm just tired. I'm tired of it. So that's good news. So with Mercury and Venus stationing retrograde, and then we get the last final eclipse in Aries. This last eclipse is the final hoorah, the last big bang. So we're closing out April and March with a bang. There's a lot of like endings and a lot of moving on. March and April feel like the moving on months, where it feels like 2024 and previously is finally wrapping up. Now we're moving into the next phase. That's what March and April feel like to me. They feel like the wrap up months. Now with Venus and Mercury stationing retrograde with Saturn, there's something that reminds us of the emotional weight and responsibility of connecting with others. It kind of lets us know the limits that we must exist within and like the rules and the guidelines that we have to follow in that area of our life. We may be rethinking projects that we began while Venus was in Aries and rethinking like how we didn't really have that much to work with. And then during the retrograde, there may be more of an opportunity for the art and the creation and the creativity and the love to flow better. However, once Venus and Mercury both come to a stop and their retrograde ends, Saturn is going to bring the vibes down. It's going to contract things, and it's going to remind us again about the weight and the responsibility that another area of our life requires and needs. Pull up your birth chart, look to see what areas of life Aries and Pisces are for you. These two places of your life are going to be kind of experiencing a revamp, a review, a rethinking at the beginning of 2025. And that's honestly a great time to glow up. That's a great time to rebrand, to level up, and to leave all the old stuff, leave all the things that don't work for you anymore, leave it in the past, and move on. Maybe Saturn in Pisces is also like, actually, you can't bring that with you. You can't bring them with you. You have to say no. You have to say, actually, I don't have the time to commit to you anymore. I can't dedicate my time, my energy to you any longer. I have to work on myself. I have to work on this project. I have to do this thing, and I just don't have any more space for you. That's what Saturn brings into our life. Again, it's that contracting, that minimizing of things. Things are going to get shaved away so that we can focus on the projects, the tasks, the things that are actually going to get us to the next level in our life. If you want to stay up to date with the astrology of 2025, I would absolutely recommend getting a wall calendar. One of my friends, Katie, she made this beautiful wall calendar. I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh, you can't see it really. It has, just trust me, it has the moon transits. It's got like when the moon's going to be in signs, and it's also, what I also just realized, it's by the sun transit. So the Capricorn calendar starts when the sun goes into Capricorn, and it ends when the sun goes into Aquarius. I didn't peep that at first, but because I was a little slow, but I got it now. Anyway, so it's not like January, February, March. It is, but like January is like January 1st is down here. I love that. Anyway, it's got summary for the astrology. Can you see that? It's got a new moon and full moon ritual for the lunations of the month. And it's just freaking beautiful. This is my favorite. Actually, no, the Sag one is my favorite. But it's just so pretty. It's so pretty. And if you use the link in my bio to buy this, you'll get $5 off. I also get $5, so you should definitely get it through my link because I'm getting paid too. Mwah. But look, it's just so cute and pretty. I just can't. Wait, I'm gonna show you guys the Sag one because the Sag one is my favorite. There it is. Ugh. I love a good green and pink moment. I know you can't see the details, but like just trust me and know that it's very gorgeous and very pretty. You can use this to keep up with the transits for 2025. You can always peep and reference it whenever to check to see where the moon is, to see what transits are happening for the month. This is such a great resource, and I'm so glad it's so gorgeous and so beautiful. And my friend made it. You should absolutely get yourself one if you can. Happy New Year. Okay, that brings us to May 25, 2025. Saturn finally dips into Aries. Here we motherfucking go. I've honestly been counting down to this transit since I started studying astrology. Because wow, Saturn and Aries, man, that's a treat. That's a trip. We only get a taste. Saturn only gets to 1 degree of Aries, so it's not that far, but it's from May 25 to September 1. Saturn will have stationed retrograde by September 1st, and we'll move back into Pisces and finish out the Saturn and Pisces transit. Saturn and Aries generation, if you're a zillennial or if you're even older than us, 30 years older than us, we are going to be getting a peek into our Saturn return, which formally comes in 2026. We've had eclipses near our natal Saturn for the past 2 years, so I honestly think it's going to be a continuation of the stories that we began, the journeys that we began for the past couple of years. The thing that's so funky and weird and concerning about Saturn and Aries is the fact that it's Saturn in fall. Saturn in fall in Mars's sign, and also the sun's sign, because the sun exalts in Aries. Saturn does not do well in Aries, Leo, or Cancer, because they all have something to do with being seen and visibility. With Aries in particular, there's something about confidence and achievement that Aries kind of aspires to have. Aries wants to get out there, do the damn thing, and prove to people that they are worthy of praise, that they are worthy of being seen and cheered on. But Saturn constricts that desire and complicates it as well. I feel like people with Saturn and Aries, and even an issue that I have a problem with myself, is self-consciousness, feeling like I am not worthy enough, I'm not good enough to stick with something, if I'm not great immediately, if I'm not like praised immediately, if I'm not seeing the success that I want and I'm not reaching the goals quickly, I give up. And I'm like, this isn't for me. Fuck this shit. I'm not doing it anymore. And the problem with Saturn and Aries is the follow through, the sticking with it, the dedication and the commitment to the things, even without getting praise. I feel like Saturn and Aries natives, especially, speaking for myself, I have a difficult time knowing what needs to be preserved, what's worth being preserved, what's worth being dedicated to, and what's worth destroying. Aries is Mars's sign. Mars is the planet of destruction, of severing, of cutting things out. It's a fire sign. Fire destroys. Fire burns things down, and nothing can be salvaged once it's destroyed. And so I made a TikTok on this, on Saturn and Aries, and I'm a little nervous about us as we go into our Saturn return, feeling like we have to figure it all out right now. We have to be adults right now. We have to be responsible, we have to like figure all of this out overnight. And while we do that, while we are like figuring out a new guideline, a new rule, a new structure for ourselves, we may find ourselves destroying that which existed prior to what we're trying to birth right now. And sometimes that destruction is absolutely necessary and absolutely important. But other times you may destroy too much to the point where it's like you can't rebuild. And so that's the thing that I feel like Saturn and Aries folks, we need to be mindful of, we need to be aware of, is not destroying too much, not feeling so awful about yourself that you're like, I will never succeed and I'm going to self-sabotage everything. No. We're going to slow down. We're going to think critically, and we're going to think about the long term. And I know that's hard to do that, but we're going to really think a little bit further out than just the next month or the next 3 months. We're going to think a little bit more seriously about the habits, the commitments, and the dedications that we're initiating, we're bringing into our life. And we're going to ask ourselves, okay, is this something that we want to keep in our life for the next couple of years? Got to think about that seriously. As Saturn and Aries, we have issues with discipline and sticking with the thing, even if we don't get praise for it. We also may feel like it's our duty to succeed, our duty to prove and to win and to be the best. I may make a whole other video on Saturn and Aries because there's so many thoughts that I have on this. Luigi Maggioni, he has Saturn and Aries, and I felt like that was just so interesting and not fitting, but like, I'm not surprised, I'm not surprised. Saturn, as I said, Aries is the sign of war, of conflict, of fighting, of destruction. Like, he has Saturn and Aries, so he'll be experiencing his Saturn return, and it'll be interesting to witness again as a collective. On top of all of that, Neptune, I'm like forgetting the elephant in the room. Neptune is also going to be ingressing into Aries at the same time. So we're going to get a Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which is going to be great. Neptune brings a very nebulous and foggy vibe to whatever area of life it touches. And so Saturn themes are going to get weird. Saturn in Aries, whatever area of life Aries is for you, things are going to get weird. We're going to be trying to work with these issues with discipline and commitment and sticking with things and like getting praise, and also feeling really weird and unclear about, again, what is worth committing to and what is worth being disciplined about. And that is honestly what makes Saturn and Aries that much more concerning this time around. As I said, as Saturn and Aries natives, we're already confused. We already don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're already having to figure it all out on our own. Now, with Neptune going in there as well, it's like doubling down on the confusion. It's doubling down on the fog and the unclarity and like the lies, quite frankly. So we have to move very slow. And that is what Saturn and Aries is calling us to do. The best remediation for Saturn and Aries, move as slow as you fucking can. Don't get caught up in being like, I'm not going to do anything. Don't do nothing, but just move very slow. And you have to get quiet and you have to make decisions based off of like what you can see right in front of you. One of my teachers, Kelly Surtees, talks about Neptune transits and how like if you're in a foggy space, you can't see what's 5 feet in front of you, but you can see your hands. You can see your feet. You can see what is directly around you. If there's anything you can do, it is to take it step by step, deal with the problems that are right in front of you. Don't look too far ahead. Just go 1 foot in front of the other and we'll get there. At some point, we will get there. And also, this is just a taste. This is not the formal real thing. I mean, it is real, but it's not like the long transit. This is just a taste. We'll dive into this more seriously in 2026. Okay, I'm not gonna end this video because honestly, there's not much. I feel like the first half of 2025 is where everything happens. The second half is where things kind of die down, / I may have just forgotten some stuff, but I don't think I did. I feel like the major things, I've already talked about them. Anyway, the best thing that happens this year, Jupiter goes into Cancer. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It's gonna be so juicy and warm and kind and sweet and I'm just so ready. This is going to be the cooling balm, the refreshing oasis in the desert that we're going to have for this whole year. Jupiter takes a year, about 12 months to get through every single sign. So right now Jupiter is in Gemini. Jupiter doesn't really like being in Gemini, but Jupiter really loves being in Cancer. Jupiter is the planet of abundance, connection, spirituality, wisdom, just good, great vibes. Cancer is the sign of the moon. The moon generally represents like the people and like the earth, the populace, whereas like the sun is the ruler, the king, the moon is the people. So with Jupiter being there, being in the people's sign, there's kind of like this help, this care that's kind of happening, this warmth and this softness that the people are going to be experiencing. And also just check the Cancer area of your life. This area of your life may have more opportunity for growth, connection, and joy and care. As I said, I have Aries rising. Cancer is my 4th house. So there may be things about home and family, more connections with my family. Maybe someone in my family makes a lot of money and then give me a lot of cash. I would love that. Maybe you have Cancer in your 11th house if you're a Virgo rising and you make more friends. You're able to like make your hopes and wishes and your dreams come true. Jupiter in Cancer is going to provide us with some really great stuff. All the good elections, all the good astrology happens when Venus is in Cancer and Venus is also in Taurus. And then also later in the year when Venus goes into Libra, that's what I was talking about at the very beginning. That's also going to be really juicy and really nice. Jupiter is the greater benefic. So the scale of the goodness that Jupiter brings into our life is bigger than that of Venus. It's like a new house as opposed to a good meal. You know, that is something to absolutely look forward to. We get Jupiter in Cancer for the rest of the year. Starting June 9, Jupiter will go into Cancer and will make all of us feel 10,000 times better than what we felt for the past few months up until that point. It's also going to be nice because it's going to be like soothing out and ironing out all of the roughness of Mars retrograde that we had at the beginning of 2025. Honestly, I think that's all I have. 2025 is going to be a really funky year. It's going to be weird. We're getting tastes and glimpses into what 2026 will be, into what the rest of the 2020s will bring for us. And on a personal level, there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of like personal, relationship, interpersonal changes that need to be made, a lot of like artistic changes that need to be made, rethinking how we're disciplined, rethinking how we're committed to things, rethinking our commitments, rethinking our discipline, and kind of sitting back and sitting with the societal shifts and transformations that are going to be unfolding throughout the year. Here's to 2025, cheers to the new year, and I'll see you guys on the flip. Bye.